YouTube and welcome to the very first episode of Maximilian Photography, the YouTube channel for digital photography, techniques and post-processing. I'm Maximilian and today we're going to discover and discuss a topic that really is a lot of fun: infrared photography. Stay with me. Alright, here we are, down by the Thames River here in London, in a beautiful little natural conservation area with lots of wildlife, lots of vegetation, lots of plant and nature. So I'm going to walk a little bit through these woods and explore and try to find the perfect spot for our image. And while I do so, I'd like to talk a little bit about IR photography to you guys and how it works. Since you're watching this video, you probably know the basics. You know that we can't see infrared light. You know that cameras usually can't see it because they are designed to imitate what we can perceive with our eyesight, right? So most cameras are not able to capture infrared light or just very minor amounts of it. Therefore, the camera has a little filter right in front of its sensor that prevents infrared light from hitting the sensor and interfering with the visible light in your images. You can either get this little filter removed. There are certain companies that do that, LifePixel and other ones here in North America. Or to get started and just explore this whole subject for cheap, you can pop an infrared filter on front of your camera that cancels out all invisible light, all ultraviolet light, and only lets the IR light pass. So how does it work? If you block out all visible light and you block out all IR light with the filter that's on the sensor already, well, the filter on the camera doesn't block out all infrared light. It blocks out most of it to a degree of like 98, 97, maybe even 99%, maybe even higher or a little lower depending on your camera. But if you block out all the visible light, just those about 2% remain and you only get infrared light hitting the sensor. So you will have to take a long exposure, even on a sunny day during noon with a clear sky. But you're able to do it with pretty much any camera if you're patient enough to figure it out. And I'm going to walk you through right that process today. This is the spot where I'm going to set up my tripod and arrange my composition and explain things to you as I go. Stay with me. So here we are, set up and ready to shoot. I actually got the camera set up on a tripod already right behind me, but before we get to the fun part of taking the actual image, let me explain a few things. You will need a solid base of some level. A tripod would be perfect. You can use a rock, you can use whatever you have to support your camera, but we will need that base because we'll have to deal with exposure times of actual minutes. We'll go beyond seconds, we have to deal with minutes of exposure. In my case, actually, I'll probably be going for 10 to 12 minutes, but we'll figure that out in a bit. So you got your camera on a tripod and you framed your composition. Next thing, you want to get the focus right. So you focus, and once you've got the focus done, especially if you don't use the back button focus, make sure you switch the lens to manual mode. Because if you don't and you pop the filter on, the camera is going to try to readjust focus as you press the shutter and won't be able because it can't see anything, so it will just hunt back and forth and mess up things. You have to take the filter off, refocus again, and that just makes it a hassle. So switch to manual mode and be sure things don't change. Next, you'll have to take test images to figure out if your focus is right, because with most lenses, actually with all lenses I have tried so far, the focus shifts after you put on the IR filter. With the Canon 24-70 I have to focus a little closer than I would have to without the filter. So what I like to do in order to not waste my time doing test shots over 10 minutes and 10 minutes and 10 minutes again, I increase the ISO all the way up as high as I can, which happens to be 6400 on this one. And that way I just have to expose for 30 seconds on f5.6 or whatever will work for the test shot. It tells me if the focus is right, and once I've got the focus nailed or as good as I can get, I go back down to my native ISO, I go for the f value I want to, and I take another couple shots till I get my exposure perfect. I already have done this, and as you can see I've got my camera on a tripod right behind me. It is exposing right now, and I'm using my intervalometer for that, which already happened to fall in the river, but it's still working. I'm on 10 minutes right now. I go for one more minute and I'm excited to show you the final picture. So this is how I take infrared images without a modified camera. I hope you enjoyed the video and you learned something from it. I'm going to see you back inside where I'm going to edit the very picture we just took. Stay tuned. Hey guys, I'm back inside now and I'm excited to transfer the image we just took onto my computer to check it out on the big screen. But before we do so, let's wrap it up. In order to take an IR image, you're going to need an infrared filter of some sort. This can either be a screw-on filter that attaches to the front element of your lens as the one we just used, or it can be a filter that actually sits inside your camera's body and just covers the sensor. That is the option that will provide you with the very best image quality, but it's also the most pricey option, because it means you have to get your camera modified for a few $100. So in case you're just getting started and you're not even sure yet if you're going to stick with IR photography at all, I highly recommend starting off with a screw-on filter, because that way you can just as easily unscrew the filter again. And in case you don't like it as much as you were hoping you would, you didn't waste a few $100 on your camera's modification, nor did you break the camera manufacturer's warranty. So once that decision is made, the next thing to figure out is which filter are you going to get, and that is mainly a matter of quality and price. So in case it's more about the quality to you and you want the very best look that such a filter can possibly provide you with, get a Hoya filter. Hoya produces IR filters on a really high level and I've been very satisfied with the results. Also, I hear very similar experiences from a lot of other IR photographers as well. If it's more about the price to you and you just want to try around a little bit and probably you're not going to use the filter a lot, get a cheaper filter. That way you can always upgrade later and you didn't spend a lot of money yet. I personally used a Somei filter in this video and I'm quite happy with the results. The only thing to figure out now is which wavelength to go for, and in my opinion the answer is clear: 720 nanometers. 720 nanometers lies just above the visible light spectrum and therefore leaves you with the very most amount of IR light, which means you have the shorter exposure times and also a lot of flexibility in post-processing. And that is a really good keyword to finish off with, because post-processing IR photographs is going to be next week's subject. So in case you don't want to miss that, make sure to hit the subscribe button below, and if you learned something from this video and enjoyed the content, please leave me a thumbs up. I muchly appreciate it. Till then, see you next week, have a good time!